What's up, YouTube? I'm Robert, and this is the B1KER Bar Podcast live stream. Check this out. I don't know if you can hear this on the podcast. Today, we're having beers. We're going with the little blood transfusion IPA here, a local Track 7 beer. Anyways, I'm super excited to have REEB Bikes on, and if you guys didn't know, that's actually beer spelled backwards. Oddly enough, I did not recognize that. It took somebody to actually tell me that, which is ridiculous because I'm not usually that type of person that doesn't catch that, but apparently that's the way it worked out for me. Nonetheless, we're gonna have them on in a minute, but let's talk about a couple other things first. If you guys could help me out and help put beer in my fridge, that would be great. And the way that you could do that is by stopping by Patreon and deciding to be one of the members over there, one of the patrons over there. Because basically for $1 a month, you can help me out and I can help you out by, you guys can get access to some of the coupons that I have over there for different vendors that I've worked with. Or for $5 a month, you can get some stickers, access to different content that I've been making only for Patreon. And then also some longer cuts of the videos that you see on YouTube, as well as something else that I can't remember right now. So you'll get something else also. Oh, a handwritten letter. That's what it is. And outside of that, if you really want to help the channel grow and get to the next level, which would be amazing, there's another one that has a whole bunch of, what did my daughter say? I'm not allowed to call it swag anymore. I'm supposed to call it something else. Merch, whole bunch of merch. See, got to take the advice from the 18-year-old. So anyways, bunch of merch on that one. And you get a pretty cool biker tumbler. You can get some of these koozies, the slap koozies I have. They're fun for keeping your beers cold or also protecting your frame whenever you're throwing it up on the tailgate. I actually have been using one on my stanchion of my fork lately because I noticed that I was starting to get some rubbing from my tailgate pad on my fork stanchion. So throw a little biker koozie on there. Boom. Problem solved. If you guys don't want to do that on Patreon, you can go buy the shop at the B1KER website, B1KER.com. And there's all that stuff over there too. You can buy it as well. Last, I tell you guys this every time. If you don't want to you don't want to send me any money, there's another way you can do it. You can just hit subscribe. That's pretty rad. You hit thumbs up if you like what I'm saying. And if you want something free that's extra, then go over to Instagram or Facebook and follow me over there at B1KER. So B1KER B1 if you can't spell. I don't know why I always say that. I feel like there's some repetition. They always do that in commercials, so I'm supposed to do it or something like that. I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, it's gonna be a shorter show tonight. These guys got lives to live. Imagine that on Mother's Day. I'm really stoked that they came out here though and decided to pop over with us for a minute. So I'm gonna bring on Tim and Adam, and you guys will be able to just look at the screen, figure it out. Those of you guys that are listening to the podcast, well, guess what? You're gonna have to figure out them by their voices. What's up, guys?
Hey,
yo, how's it going?
So, I'm super stoked, dude, to have you guys online. Honestly, man, I'm glad that I reached out to our buddy over there, freaking hooked us up, Trail Boss, and he got us here to go. And why don't you guys just tell me, maybe Adam first, tell me like what you do over there, and then we'll do the same thing with Tim and give me a little introduction of what you guys do, and then we'll just talk bikes, man.
Yeah, hey, I'm Adam. I'm the machinist, fabricator, and welder at REEB. My main project is kind of designing, testing, and fabricating the REEB Squeeb, which is our 150 millimeter travel 29-inch full suspension frame. But we're a pretty small shop, so we pretty much do everything in our machine shop.
Right on, man. How about you, Tim?
Hey, Tim. So I handle mostly the sales for REEB, and so if you email the general REEB email, you get me, and so I try to answer questions and help people get on hopefully the perfect bike for them. And let's see, we also have a bike shop in Longmont. It's in Cyclops Bike Cantina, so you can go there and have a beer, some tacos, and tequila, and that sort of thing. Get your bike worked on, or check out a REEB demo, or buy a bike.
All the important things, right?
REEB merch is there too.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
So I heard you guys talking earlier before we got online that you guys were riding today. What'd you guys get into?
Yesterday, I actually just moved just outside of Lyons, which is where REEB is based out of. But just out riding the backyard, there's some really good stuff. We've had some moisture lately, so
nice.
Things are starting to dry up at least to make everything rideable, but it's staying nice and wet, so the soil's still nice and tacky.
So you guys are Colorado, so it's kind of like high desertish kind of riding where you're at. I don't know Colorado very well, but isn't there like a this side of the slope and this side of the slope? I don't know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so we're on the we're like in the Front Range, like Denver, Boulder, but Lyons is starting to get up further up into the mountains. Where I live is like 6,500 feet or so. So
okay, cool.
Yeah, but yeah, high desert is definitely a good description of where we're at.
So you guys have kind of like Tahoe, where we're like you're having some good dirt, and then you're having some kitty litter or some sandbox in the turn, and then you're having some good dirt and some sandbox, kind of like that.
Yep, exactly.
Got it. How about you, Tim?
Yeah, so I actually rode yesterday as well. Didn't get to ride today, but rode yesterday. Actually, right up in Adams' neighborhood. I live in town in Lyons, and Adams kind of up in the hills a bit. So what I think are some of our best trails around in Adams' yard, essentially. So I was up there and kind of exploring a little, some of the trails we always ride, and a little piece that I've never even seen, after living here for I don't know, 12 years or something. And this is kind of a secret little new trail. So
it's crazy how that is. Like you can be somewhere for so long and like not know of something that's like right in front of you, right?
Yeah, especially some of the stuff's kind of, it's hard to get to, a bit remote. And, I think we did a little over 20 miles yesterday. It was 5 hours. It was rough terrain.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you guys weren't moving quick then, huh?
Yeah. I mean, there were several beers on the trail too. But.
Hey, man, there's no problems there, right?
Yeah.
Definitely helps things move along. What, I would assume you guys are both riding Reebs. Is that actual, or am I going to we're going to mess up the marketing right now?
No, we're pretty diehard.
Right on. What are you riding, Adam?
So I'm riding the REEB Bruiser, which is not a production bike, but it is kind of a little experiment that I've been working on for a couple years. Lots of help from Gates belt drive and pinion gearboxes.
Oh,
so
wow.
It is so it's a 190 front, 185 rear travel, 12-speed gearbox bike with a single front fork. So it's like
a 29er, I assume.
Yep, 29er.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's 62.5-degree head angle. The wheelbase is
that long, low, slack kind of deal.
Yeah, but it's fully a trail bike. I pedal it everywhere. It'll be a bike that I climb like 3,500 feet on to go do a trail ride. So, it's a lot of fun.
I rode a Zeroed in UC in Santa Cruz a few years ago, and I'll say that gearbox with where it puts the weight at, it was the most confident bike I've ever ridden through a corner in my entire life. Like that, just like having that weight down there, it was amazing. I would imagine, is that a similar experience that you're having with what you got?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting experience because I changed about 10 variables on the bike. I made the chainstays longer. The front triangle is made out of steel instead of aluminum. The weight went way up, mainly because I joke it's like my COVID bike. Bike parts are so hard to find right now. You try to make it, last.
Right.
But yeah, it's super fun. It handles very similar to our Squeeb, our normal production trail bike, but it just has those couple variables that are fun to play with.
Right on, man. I know with the Zeroed too, that bike was a lot heavier, but because of where the weight was, it didn't feel that way.
Yeah, and it's definitely how you build it. Like the pinion gearbox, like they have two different versions. One is made out of aluminum. It's more durable, like less prone to rock strikes. from what I hear. They also have a magnesium case, which is much, much lighter. But the only bad thing I've heard about it is you can punch a rock through the gearbox.
Yeah.
But that one, the magnesium gearbox weighs just a touch more. Like it's like maybe 100 grams more than a GX drivetrain.
Oh, wow.
So it's not
So
it's not as heavy as you think they are, but
yeah.
I think they get kind of a bad rap because they look a little bulky.
I'll tell you right now, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that the future of bikes is along that line. I mean, the derailleur just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like we're riding through this rocky terrain and tight stuff, and to have something hanging off of the bike like that's an integral part of your shifting and like whether or not you keep pedaling. It just doesn't make any sense for it to be there. So I think that's pretty rad that you guys are working on that. Is that something that you see in the foreseeable? Like, what's the future timeline look for that? Like a year or two out, or?
That's hard to say. The big thing is Reeb has been building hardtails with pinion building hardtails with pinion gearboxes for a long time.
Yeah.
For like probably 5 years, something like that, right, Tim?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds about right. I guess I'd have to go back and see when we took that first one to the Handmade Bike Show, but yeah, we were one of the early adopters of that technology.
Because you guys have a belt drive even on your DJ too, right?
Yeah. So any of our
not pinion, but it's like
so like any of our single speed hardtails are belt drive capable. So anything can be run with it. We do have several production models now that aren't all belt drive compatible, but we do have belt options for all of our bikes still.
So, but the pinion that you're running, that's belt as well, right? Or
did I
just make that assumption?
You can run that. You can run that chain or belt. I just thought belt was pretty cool, and it's crazy because the bike is completely silent on the trail.
Right.
So it's pretty awesome. No chain slap.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah.
How about you, Tim? What are you riding?
Well, yeah. So yesterday I actually rode so I have a Squeeb that's a completely production, stock Squeeb, medium frame. Love that bike. I ride it a lot. Typically in the area that I was riding yesterday, I probably would ride my single speed. So it's our Ridiculous 2. It's a belt drive single speed, and works really well for that kind of terrain where it's just like picking through things, a lot of hike bike and that sort of stuff. A little bit of an exploratory ride. But I had a crash a few weeks back and kind of re-injured my shoulder a little bit. So pulling on the single speed's been more difficult. So I rode the geared bike yesterday. And the Squeeb does really well on all that stuff too. It's just, a little more bike than you need for some of that stuff.
So what's the Squeeb's normal kind of like, what is it? Wheel size and suspension, like 160, 150, 130. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with it. I'm assuming that not everybody listening is as well.
Yeah, I would say in general, the Squeeb, so we make it the same frame. It comes in two travels. So we make a long travel and a short travel. So it's the same frame, just with a different rear shock and a lower shock mount, so that we can get either 130 out of the short travel or 150 out rear travel in the long travel. And then typically pair that on both models with the 150 to 180 fork for most people.
Wow.
I run mine 170 up front and the long travel rear, and that makes for a bike that feels like it can handle anything. You can go, take it to the park for a day. I mean, it'll handle, like a lot of enduro style bikes these days. It'll handle like what a downhill bike from a few years back would do. You can also pedal it all day, and it's, just a good trail bike too. So.
Right on, man. So
we wanted to make that bike very adaptable. Since we are a small company, like it's hard to have a ton of different full suspension bike models. So we really, over the past couple of years, we've really dug into what we thought was best for a bike that pedaled well and went downhill well. And then we were able to build a platform a frame platform that is modular. So the lower shock mount is actually swappable, so you can run different travel shocks, and you can also adjust bottom bracket height with that. And then when you run anywhere from 150 to 180 millimeter fork, there's a lot of different things you can do with geometry. So we even have our mullet squeeb is the same front triangle as all the rest of our squeebs, but it uses a different lower shock mount. And we're testing all the way up to 180 millimeter rear travel on the mullet setup. So it's truly like extremely modular and capable bike that you can really do anything on. And the most important thing is it's a bike that pedals well. We all like to pedal a bunch. We're not just like park rats or anything. So that was super important to us.
Yeah, I think most of the people nowadays, I mean, kind of that enduro kind of style riding is what most people are doing, right? Like at least most of the people that I know, as far as like when you say mountain biker, most people are going out, you know, you're doing a lot of pedaling, but it's really just a means to the end, right? It's like pedal so that you can freaking rip down the hill and have a good time. I don't know a whole lot of XC types, I guess you could say, you know, like they're out there. I'm not saying that they aren't, and there's plenty of people that's their jam, but it seems like the majority of the everyday mountain bikers are more on that kind of enduro kind of lifestyle, I guess you could say. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, definitely. You know, it's kind of the trend right now.
Right.
There's I would say it's the popular trend. There's still plenty of people that, you know, think a 150 millimeter travel bike is way too much. That's why we offer that 130 travel option. But we also build a lot of hardtails, and we have two hardtail mountain bikes, the Diculous 2 and the Ridiculous. The Ridiculous has a 2-degree slacker head tube angle than the Diculous 2, because we know that there's still people out there that, you know, want to pedal all day, and they don't necessarily need the long, low, and slack that everybody's building. So we like to kind of have all the options, because we sell to everybody, not just the, you know, people following the trend.
Oh, and didn't Jeff have to do? Didn't he help you guys out with like kind of figuring out the Ridiculous or something like that?
Yeah, that's kind of like his pro model.
Yeah.
We had the Diculous 2, and he wanted a bike that was mainly lower, you know, a lot more standover. The Diculous 2 is kind of started off as like the, you know, the just normal single speed mountain bike. It checked all the boxes. And now that is kind of grafted into our bike packing bike, because it does have that big front triangle for a frame bag. And but yeah, Jeff helped out a bunch with you know, dialing in the geometry on the Ridiculous, and it's still it's always you know, ongoing process with that too. Like we like to do rolling changes and just keep building better bikes.
Right on, man. Tim, I'm curious as to why that you chose to have a belt drive on your single speed. What's the reason for that?
Yeah, you know, I think we've been doing the belt drive stuff, you know, kind of hanging out with the Gates folks and doing that from the start. And I've just, you know, I know maybe it's not the same for everyone, but I've never had trouble with it. It's simple. You know, I've been riding single speeds for a long time. So before I started on the belt drive, I would go through, you know, a few chains a year, and a belt typically lasts me several years. So, you know, they can break, but they're actually quite durable and really low maintenance, quiet, light. They tend to work really well around here. Like you touched on it earlier, we have like essentially like decomposed granite, kitty litter, some like loamy soil here and there, but you know, we don't have like fine dust, which seems to be one of the only places the belt drive doesn't work well. Like really, I guess, light dust that gets in the belt and can cause creaking. So around here, the belts run clean and stay quiet all the time. So it just works for me. I also am, as far as single speeds go, I kind of pick a gear and stay with it. So I'm not changing out my cogs a lot like some single speeders do. So for that, maybe chain drive's at least a little bit less expensive because the belt cogs and belts are, more expensive than chain stuff. But I kind of pick the gear and just stick with it for the most part.
Yeah. I really wanted to try single speeding. I had a Chameleon till just recently. I sold it and I bought the stuff to switch it over to single speed, and I never ended up getting around to it before I ended up selling the bike. And I'm still interested, man. I'm like, when I bought the hardtail, one of the main reasons that I bought that was so that I could make some trails that I've ridden a billion times fun again. That's the best way I can explain it. And that's kind of how I feel about the single speed. It's like, okay, I've done it this way. I've done it this way. I've done it this way. Now let's try it that way, and I don't know. It's definitely like on my list, but for some reason the lady doesn't understand that I need like 75 bikes. So, So right now it is what it is. So you guys talked about the Squeeb. You've talked about, what about some of the other models? What the Ridiculous you said? So that's like basically you have a hardtail. You have the Squeeb, which is 29er. Do you guys have a 27.5, or do you do anything like that, or a plus bike?
Yeah, we do. We have a model called the 650 that has been. It's I think it's our longest running bike without a change at this point. But that was we started making that bike to take. It'll take 27.5 by 3-inch tires. I mean,
so you can go pretty big on that then, yeah.
Yeah, so that one's also kind of been used as a bike packing bike for people that want to run that gear size, or just a general, I guess trail bike if you're not looking for something super aggressive. It hasn't been quite as popular in the past few years. I think that the 29 wheel size has just been a bit more popular, at least for us. And we do make a fat bike too. It's called the REEB Donk. We actually ride them a ton around here because we have, a good winter, and just up the road we have conditions that are good for it through the winter. We get a bunch of snowshoers. Being on the Front Range, it's a pretty populated area as far as people getting out on the trails and packing the trails, snowshoers and skis and stuff. So we have a lot of fun riding single track.
Yeah. One of my buddies, he rides up in Tahoe a lot, the fat bike, and he was saying that basically where all the snowmobilers go, he just rides inside of their tracks, basically.
Right. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Like there's a race series, I guess, kind of local up in Leadville. Those guys at Cloud City Wheelers put on a really cool race series in the winter, and most of that is groomed by a snowmobile. Right here where we are, it's more restricted, so it's all like foot packed with snowshoes and stuff. But really good trail, and tons of fun. A lot of the fastest Strava times on some of these trails are in the winter because these trails are just boulder strewn, roots and boulders and stuff in the summer, and then in the winter it's just sort of like this rolling.
Yeah, it's like a beeline then, flow trail
essentially.
Right.
So if conditions are right, it's just ripping fast and really fun.
That's super rad. I need to try that one of these days. It's like I grew up in Pennsylvania and it snows all winter, and when we would ride, it was just like this miserable experience. But that was riding mountain bikes back in the 90s. You know what I mean? So like in my head, I'm like, I don't want to relive that. But obviously things have changed a bunch. I really, really should try it out. So it's definitely so kind of switching gears a little bit. Can you guys tell me like how REEB came about?
Yeah. So this was before I started here with REEB, but so our owner Dale Dale started Oscar Blues Brewery. So we're somewhat tied to a brewery still, which is an interesting way to come about with a bike company. But Dale and a bunch of the folks there at Oscar Blues were, super into bikes, and Oscar Blues at that point was sponsoring. I mean, to me at least, I was working at a different bike shop back then, but it seemed like every race was sponsored by Oscar Blues brewery, and so deep in the bike culture already. And then right about then, as Oscar Blues was starting to really blow up, Dale's bike was stolen. He had another bike that was made here in Colorado by another company, and so he kind of wanted another made in Colorado bike, and right about that time it wasn't working out from that company, so he decided to just start his own company. So that's where REEB Cycles was born, and it was right at first it was a few brewery employees, like making some bikes for brewery employees, and then October 2011, they started the LLC and decided to make an official bike company. Our buddy Chad, who kind of ran the marketing company at Oscar Blues as it really grew, started REEB Cycles. I came on, I think it was in 2012, and we, it's kind of grown from there, and I guess evolved from like this little company that was really, really focused on beer and just like simple bikes. So that's the single speed hardtail kind of thing. So simple bike beer and all that, to making several bikes and really a focus that's more like, I think, every other bike company. We still drink plenty of beer though.
Right on. So Adam, you're a welder, and you said a machinist as well. So you guys are machining parts up there. You're not getting that stuff made elsewhere. You guys are doing it all there.
Yeah, so we do 98% of things. We outsource. The only thing that we outsource is the suspension hardware, and we have that made by Turnamics, which is i9's parent company. So keeping it in the industry and kind of keeping it with friends, and then in high production times we have our rocker machined by a longtime bike industry friend in Michigan. So we machine everything else in house, and that's for the squeeb. We do steel yokes for the. Thank you. We do steel yokes for the hardtails in house. We machine all of our fixtures in house. We do a lot.
Right on.
And then, a lot of that is my design and programming. But then we also have a friend, Steve, the Space Cowboy. He's kind of just a guy that showed up in our shop one day. He lived in planes, and he's an aerospace engineer, and he really loved what we were doing. And it seems like we kind of all just became best friends, and he liked to help out with a bunch of engineering work for us. So Steve helped out a bunch on the current squeeb, and then I pretty much machine everything. I weld all the bikes, all the aluminum bikes, and then we powder coat in-house. We assemble the frames in-house. And then once the frames are assembled, they get turned over to Tim, and he makes them into complete bikes.
Oh, right on, man. How'd you get into machining, man?
Long story, but I'm really into classic cars. And I grew up in a garage pretty much wrenching on old cars, and my dad was an engineer, and I was always taught to, try to learn how to do it yourself. And I think that's how I became a machinist. I liked what machinists do. And I just tried hard and followed the right people and asked questions, and now I work for REEB.
Yeah, I work for my day job. I do IT, but the company that I work for, they build ROVs for like bottom of the ocean, like working on oil rigs and stuff like that. And they machine everything there. So they're like machining all this stuff out of like titanium and whatever and all this kind of crazy stuff. And I got a buddy that runs Project 321, the hub company. So my only experience before working at this place was like going to see his facility, and it's like, a couple of machines or whatever. And that was pretty impressive to me at the time, and then I started working here, and it's like, I walk in this machine, this place is like the size of a football field with just Maury's just freaking grinding stuff all day long. It's like, holy cow, this is insane.
Yeah. Yeah, Maury's are good machines. My last job, I was a maintenance supervisor at a medical machine shop, and they actually sent me to DMG Maury to go to some classes there.
All right.
So that was pretty cool. But speaking of Project 321, you're the second person that has mentioned those hubs in the last week. Does that use some sort of magnetic pawl system?
Yeah. Jake, originally when he started making his hubs, he was out of Fresno, and he was doing the shells. He also does stuff for like Shelby. Like, I mean, you're a car guy, so you know what Shelby is.
Yep.
And I guess he was making. I might be wrong on this. I'm kind of paraphrasing from what I know, but I think he started making hubs because he was really into lefties and he couldn't get what he wanted or something like that. So it was like he did this shit for Shelby and all this other stuff, and it was like, I'm gonna do this on the side because I'm a mountain biker and I like that or whatever. And I think it just started growing. But originally he was using I9 internals and just making the shells, and then later he came out with that magnetic system. And honestly, dude, I was buying his hubs before I was doing YouTube, and they were solid, man. That was the deal. It was like I could buy this hub that weighed just as much as an I9 that came in all the colors, and I rode a lefty at the time too, so it was like finding somebody that made a lefty hub in colors, or whatever, and they were solid. And then he brought out the new pawl system, and those are solid too. And he has a louder one, and then what he calls quiet, so it's not silent, but it's quiet.
Yeah.
And they've been rock solid for me. I'm actually running a prototype that he has right now. I've been running it for a few months and zero problems there. So I've been nothing but happy and excited to help represent his company as much as I can, because it's kind of like REEB is, man. It's a smaller company and making good products, trying to do the best they can do, right?
Yep. Exactly.
So, how about you, Tim? How'd you get into the bike industry?
Oh man, it was I guess, a racing bikes in college, trying to cross country race. I was never really that good at it, but ended up meeting, a bunch of guys that worked at the bike shop through the race scene, and kind of, took part-time job working bike shop, and then it just sort of evolved into, a full-time mechanic job. And then when I finished college, I got my degree in wildlife management, and I moved to Colorado and thought I'd try to get a job working for the Colorado Department of Wildlife, and that's like sort of a dream job. And turned out, in the meantime, I got a bike shop gig again, and all sorts of different opportunities have come about. But I've always just looked at it and thought, what do I enjoy? And it's always been, bikes. So just stick with it, and it's worked out okay. I mean, working here at REEB is sort of my dream job, I suppose. It's like doing what I want to do every day. So
I've always told my kids as they were growing up, like, if you chase whatever you're passionate about, you'll always be successful. Right. And success can be measured in different ways. I mean, some people measure success in money and things, and some people measure success in happiness. And I'm sure there's some other ways that people measure it. But to me, like, whatever it is to you, if you're happy, then you're doing it right. And if you're chasing like something that you're passionate about, at least in my opinion, how can you not be happy? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So some of the guys in the comments are talking about that you guys have a clunker. How'd that come about?
So clunkers are pretty cool.
Right.
No, it's hard to say that they're not.
So the one you guys have is it a coaster brake?
It's coaster brake capable, but it's also we tried to keep it as like open as possible. So, really it's a frame that you can buy and you can slap all your mountain bike parts on it that are like outdated.
Right.
Pretty much. Like it has 44 millimeter head tube, so you can run any fork you want in it. You can run an 1.1 inch fork. You can run a tapered fork. You could run.
Oh, nice.
I mean, you can run an 1.5 inch straight fork if you have one of those sitting around. And then it's a threaded bottom bracket, 27.2 seat post, which you can run a dropper post with. Right. And then the rear end is a 135, bolt-on style dropout. So any like older single speed wheels, or you can space out coaster brake hubs to work with that rear end spacing. So I used to work at a bike shop in Iowa called Ichi Bike. And that's all we did. We refurbished old Schwinn's, and we built clunkers and, just cool cruiser bikes. And it's something that I've always been into. And when I came on working at REEB, I really thought about the fact that we make a lot of pretty high-end bikes, and you don't really want to lock up one of those really high-end bikes outside of a bar. Right. So our clunker is half the price of one of our, normal mountain bikes. Yeah. So it makes a much cheaper bike. It's still a very nice, high quality, high-end bike, but it doesn't necessarily stand out like a high-end mountain bike does. So
no, I'm with you. I have a $400 freaking Raleigh single speed road bike. I don't know if that's what you want to call it. You know what I mean? That I use. That's my bar bike. It's a nice bike, dude. It pedals good, like good frame and everything like that. But at the end of the day, that's kind of why I have it. Is like, if somebody decides to take that while I'm inside having some beers, I'm going to be upset, but I'm not going to be like heartbroken,
Yeah. And so like our bike can be built up pretty much any way you want, rigid fork, suspension fork. It can be a very affordable bar bike, or it can be built up as like a rad single speed mountain bike with a suspension fork. Yeah. Tim's bike is built up with a Cane Creek helm on the front, and it's like normal, like single speed, like mountain bike trail ripper. And that thing is so much fun. Like,
so the bike that you were talking about earlier, Tim, your single speed is actually the clunker? Well,
I have both. So I have a ridiculous 2 that's a belt drive single speed, and then my clunker is just what Adam said. It's a chain drive single speed, but it's got like, wheels. They're the really good Stans flow rims, the old flows, whatever they were called, the heavy ones that and a helm fork that was still in great shape, but just ended up being retired off another bike, and that sort of stuff. So it's got some sort of hodgepodge parts, but it turned out, it's got tubeless mountain bike wheels and a nice suspension fork and a dropper post. So it's a ton of fun to actually trail ride on. Yeah,
I've had this idea for this clunker freaking ride that I want, video ride, whatever you want to call it. So I had you guys know who Charlie Kelly is?
Yeah.
Right. So like he started like the mountain bike racing, downhill racing scene, I guess you could say, in Marin County.
Yep.
And there's a documentary on Amazon called Clunkers that basically he had a big deal to do with. And there's this run over there, the Repack run. That's like kind of like the birthplace of mountain biking, right? And those guys like Chris Ritchie and stuff like that, like held the record for years and years on these like old ass freaking clunkers that they rolled down that hill. And I've never been to the trail, but everybody I've talked to that has been there, I mean, it's basically like a fire road. It's not a trail by any means of what we would call a trail today. But I go out here on this freaking bike that I have that's probably, it's a top of the line bike, right? and I'm ripping down the trail with my buddies and we're getting PRs and we're, talking shit about other people or whatever. And I really want to get a clunker, albeit a modern day clunker, but get a clunker and just go out there and see where I stack up. You know what I mean? Like I could be thinking I'm a badass, but if I'm doing 7 minutes and Chris Ritchie was at like 4, obviously, dude, they were killing it, right? So I don't know. It just seems like a super fun idea to me to go out there and check it out.
Yeah. So there was actually just an article about this. Jeff Kabush went out there and tried to beat Tom Ritchie's record. I think
I saying the wrong name? Was it Tom or was it Chris? I thought it was Chris.
Tom Ritchie is like of Ritchie bikes.
Oh, okay.
And I believe
I was saying it wrong.
I believe Tom record, or maybe I was actually just trying to look it up. But back then, so there's a couple variables. So Jeff Kabush, I think wasn't able to beat the record, or it was like coming very, very close. Mm-hmm. And back then there was no water bars on the road, so it was much faster than it is now. Evidently there was a bunch of big water bars, but they were saying that it was like extremely hard to beat. And he did everything from he brought out like a Yeti SB100 and tried it on that and wasn't even close. And then
I've heard that too, that guys on modern bikes are still struggling to beat these guys' times. Yeah.
And I think the closest he got was running a SB165 with DH casing tires and heavy wheels and, a bike that makes a lot of momentum.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the moral of that story is repetition, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, they were out there. That was their racetrack. That
was the only thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Just over and over and over again. It's like when my buddies come up here and they ride with me and we do one of my local trails. And it's like, dude, these guys could smoke me anywhere else, but they're on my trail. It's like, they're like, damn, dude, you're ripping. I'm like, yeah, but I've done this trail 1,000 times, dude.
Oh yeah. That makes a huge difference. I mean, every week Reeb does a ride called the Reeb Romp, and it's a night ride.
Oh, sweet.
And I try to ride as many as I can, but I don't get out to as many as I want. But Tim and Chad ride these trails, and in Boulder County and Larimer County, there's a lot of trails that technically close at dusk.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a limited selection of good trails to ride at night. So,
or do they enforce it? Because around here, everything closes at dusk, but people that I know that may be associated with me ride anything anyways and kind of just run with if you get caught, then it's illegal.
Yeah. The one we have a trail that's a mile from our shop. That's in the town of Lyons. That one, we just kind of know not to poach it because, we're a company that's based out of town. I get it. So, you gotta
but I mean, some areas, they're all hardcore about trying to pop people. So I know in San Francisco, these guys are getting popped and getting tickets written all the time. And it's holy cow, man. Really? That's what they have to spend their time on? I'm just
I wouldn't say it's very enforced. It's just there's still there's kind of a good selection of trails that are legal and still fun at night.
I'm following you.
But riding with Tim, who's ridden some of these trails 100 times, he knows everything on it, and it's awesome following Tim and Chad just because they know these trails like the back of their hand, and I'm just along for the ride. So
that's good though, man. People will tell you into the fun lines, and you see stuff that you didn't see before, and that's
fun lines.
Right. So somebody was asking while we were talking about the clunkers, what's a good coaster brake hub recommendation?
I don't remember the exact one off the top of my head, but it's made by Shimano. It's their current Shimano hub.
Yeah.
what
like
you
model number. I can't remember.
Yeah, like some hard model number to remember. But
some alphabet soup with some numbers at the end or something like that.
Yeah, but honestly, there is no good coaster brake hub. Just like back in the 70s and 80s in the repack days, what repack means is you have to repack the hub with grease because you do one run and you just boil all of the grease out of the hub and then the hub goes up. So the real people to talk to about coaster brake stuff is Oddity Cycles and Money Bikes. Shell from Money makes flanges that bolt onto a Shimano hub that converts it from 36 hole to 32 hole. So you can run a coaster brake hub in a normal mountain bike rim. And he also makes like the correct axle spacers because they're all 115 spacing, they're narrow spacing. So he makes spacers and can source axles to make them 135 spaced. And those guys, and they also do, I think he calls it the coaster cooler. It's like a giant heat sink that bolts onto the center of the hub to keep the hub cool. Because when you like actually coaster brake mountain bike, the hub gets extremely hot. So you have to cool it down somehow. So
that makes sense though, putting some heat sinks on it. I didn't even think about that.
Yep. But as for old hubs, the kind of like trick back in the day for clunkers were to run a Schwinn tandem hub. So that it was like a Bendix hub, but it was made specifically for tandems. So the wedges in the coaster brake were like twice as big and you could run bigger spokes and it was just a stronger hub.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's all kinds of tricks.
I should talk to Jake over there at Project 321 and tell him he needs to make a coaster brake hub.
It would be awesome to make a modern coaster brake hub.
Well, you're a machinist too, dude. Get on it, man.
Right? Yeah. That would be pretty awesome. That'd be a fun kind of not pointless, but like a fun project to put way too much effort into.
Right. So one of the guys in the comments is saying Shimano CB-E110. Does that sound about right? Something like that?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, whoever's making that comment probably knows.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, they could have put alphabet anything with some letters in it and we would have been like, yep.
Yeah,
that's the
one.
Yeah.
So Tim, what do you like about working over there, man? What's your favorite part?
Well, I guess sort of the variety. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, but no day's the same. We get to typically go to do a bunch of cool events. I think Adam alluded to it a little bit earlier. We kind of all do a lot of stuff here. So we're a company with like 6 employees, so everybody kind of has to be able to
jack of all trades,
do whatever's needed and sort of wing it. And so it's super fun in that regard. I also get to. So if you look at our website, it looks like we sell like these stock bikes, and that's kind of the thing that we do. But we really, almost every bike I build is unique in some way. It's pretty rare that we sell like a fully stock bike. Usually we're selling to a clientele, these people aren't buying their first bike typically. And so they know they want, a Chris King headset added in, and Mango or whatever, So there's just like a lot of that kind of stuff and making, bikes that look good or are exactly what somebody wants. Adam and the crew at the fab shop can do custom sizing and stuff too. So we get into that once in a while. And so it's just really fun to do. I guess the best of what I've been trying to do for a long time working at bike shops was to put everyone on the best bike for them. And now I can really do it. So it's
right
fun.
on, man. How about Adam? If one of your friends that doesn't mountain bike came to you and was like, dude, you work for a mountain bike company and I want to buy one, what would be the bike that you would recommend to them?
somebody that doesn't mountain bike.
They want to get into it, but they want to, they don't, whenever people are like trying to get into it, they don't want to spend a lot, but they want the best bang for their buck, but they want something that's going to do well. Obviously, where they live has something to do with it. Let's just assume they live where you guys are. So you're not trying to like take that into the equation, but like which one of your line would you set them up on?
So it all depends on their end goal. Like if they want to get to be a really good mountain biker and they want to go on like big mountain rides and have full suspension, I would 100% say a short travel squeeb. And those start out, pretty affordable for a complete bike. But otherwise, I would say the Ridiculous 2, because it could be set up so many different ways. The Ridiculous 2 being a hardtail, you can build it a little bit more affordable, but it also is full featured. So you can build it, as crazy as you want in the future. Mm-hmm. Hardtails also have that nice fact that they don't necessarily kind of go obsolete.
Yeah. No, it's still a fun bike no matter what, man.
Yeah. Like, we have customers that ride their Ridiculous 2 for, several years, and then they come back and they buy a new fork that's, 10, 20 millimeters longer and build up some different wheels for it, put a dropper post on it and make it into a, bigger mountain bike. So,
right on.
Lots of cool options, really.
Are your bikes all direct to consumer, or you guys sell them through shops too, or?
Yeah. Tim can talk about that.
Yeah, both. We do, I think, at this point, still more direct to consumer, but we do have bike shops that we work with, and they're, listed dealers on our website if you want to check that out. So, for anybody who's watching and wants to see if there's one in their neighborhood, check them out. All the shops that are on there are shops that we've had fun working with, and are committed to helping us out with what we're doing. We haven't like really pushed a dealer base or platform. We're not trying to get a dealership in every city out there or anything. But
I got
next time we can work with a shop that's just a cool shop that kind of digs what we're doing. It usually turns into a really good relationship where
100%.
It's more like friends that sell our bikes than relationship.
Yeah. No, I'm totally hearing you there, man. What do you guys have anything in the pipeline that you're super excited about? Like, can we talk about that? I don't know if we could talk. But I mean, you already told me about the 190 millimeter freaking full suspension belt drive, dude. So opinion bike.
There's no secrets around here. We really just revamped our whole line in the past year and a half. So we're super excited about getting all those bikes out into the public and riding on them. But we always do rolling changes. We aren't a company that does like a huge, model launch every year.
Right. You just kind of do it as you go.
Yeah. We typically, we kind of just roll with the changes. And, if there's something new that comes out, we don't wait until the next model year to, adapt to that new.
Well, you guys are fabricating everything there. So it's pretty easy to do that. It's not like you ordered like 500 frames from China. You need to sell those first. You're like, all right, well, tomorrow, Adam, start machining it this way,
Yeah, exactly. So we always like to keep things really current. Like that being said, the Squeeb is going through a revision now. Like all the bikes shipping now have a frame that the front triangle, the whole frame is a pound lighter than last year's bike.
Oh, wow.
Some aesthetics changes, some manufacturing changes. It's still same geometry. We're doing like a little bit more standover. So just dropping the top tube on the bikes to give it more of that like straight backbone look, where the top tube kind of runs into the seat stays really nice. But yeah, just kind of rolling changes and just always improving our product. Nothing crazy groundbreaking right now. Just making them better.
When you guys are doing your droppers, because you guys only work in aluminum, right?
The full suspension bike is only aluminum right now.
I guess the better way to ask that question so that people are clear, you guys don't make a carbon model is what I'm trying to say.
That we do not make a carbon model.
So when you're doing your droppers, then there's no kind of internal routing, right? In a regular aluminum frame for cable housings, or do you guys do all your cable housings on the external side?
All of our cable routing is on the outside of the triangle, except for where the seat post inserts into the frame. So, it's like a stealth dropper, but
so there's like a hole basically down at the bottom, and you kind of just route out of that and then zip tie to the frame or whatever it is, all the way up the down tube.
Yeah, on the down tube, there's machined cable guides that hold all three cables together. It's a very clean mounting system. They go underneath the water bottle, so the cables stay clean, and they're like, not underneath the down tube where they just fill with dirt and crap.
So you have two bottle mounts on your frames usually, or just one, or depends on the frame?
The full suspension bike just has one bottle mount.
Got it. Right on. And then I wanted to ask too, so earlier you were saying like sometimes somebody gets a Chris King headset, or they want whatever cranks or something like that. How does that process go for somebody that's trying to buy? Like, you go to the website, it's not like there's a checkbox that says, I want Chris King here, and in blue anno is there like a support link or something you just email, or how do people go about doing that?
Yeah, exactly that. So, we've kind of fiddled around with the website a lot, and it can easily get too complicated, and not just from a web design and monetary standpoint, but also like from the consumer standpoint, We've left it fairly simple where there are easy, clear choices if you just want to pick a bike, but and then just there's on every bike page there's kind of an email list for custom builds, and so we end up doing a lot of not just that where it's you want to throw in a different crank or fork or whatever, but a lot of people, I think, like I was kind of saying earlier, they have a lot of parts too, or maybe they're like moving parts over from their last bike. So we do a lot of like partial builds too. So we'll do
cool.
Frame, shock, and whatever, headset, fork.
Yeah, I get it.
Different things. So we're really willing to work with anybody and do all that stuff. It's I'm building these things up one at a time as far as like the final build for a complete bike. So it's typically not a big deal to put parts out. We don't charge extra to do it, just parts prices difference. These days with COVID, parts availability is tricky, so that makes it
it's been a mess, right?
Sometimes it works out too, because we'll have a complete bike about ready to go, but we can't get this or that, and so it's nice to be able to call somebody up and say, hey, your bike's about ready to go, but do you want to run a different crank or whatever? And people are biking. The bike community, I think, is getting it as a whole that like things are not quite back to perfect yet. And,
no, we all get it, dude.
Yeah. Yesterday, so like, people are pretty cool with it, and a lot of times it works out well. Or like, well, I was thinking about doing those whatever Ewing's titanium cranks or something like that.
Right.
So sometimes you get a nice upgrade. So
have you guys ridden those?
Yeah, I've got them on my Squeeb actually.
My buddy Jake that I was talking about earlier from Project 321 was telling me about them, and I have another friend too, and he was like, dude, once you ride these cranks, you won't want to ride any other cranks ever again. Like, is it really that way? Is it that different?
Yeah, I mean, they're good. They feel really nice. And I sort of looked at it as like, yeah, they're really expensive, but they should last a really, really long time. And
yeah, I mean, it should be like the last pair of cranks that you buy. I mean, it's like you're going to break a carbon crank eventually. Like, it's just going to happen.
Totally. So in your warranty, so think about how many carbon cranks you're going to buy over 10 years, and I bet you're going to spend that much money.
Yeah, no, 100%. I get it. It's just one of those things where it's like, man, you know, that like point of entry, right? Because what are they about like $800-900, right?
Yeah, I think they're $1,000.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, dude, that's full commit, man. You know, like
they're maybe it's 900. I don't recall exactly, but they're expensive.
Everybody I talk to though just says that it's like a phenomenal difference in like how the power transfer is. Like you can tell it immediately.
Yeah, they feel really, really good. I did notice. I mean, I guess I was going from, I think a Shimano XT crank was what I had on before, and yeah, I did notice a difference there.
Yeah, you probably are faster just because your wallet's lighter, right?
Totally.
Right on, guys. Dude, I really appreciate you guys getting out here. It's been an hour. I know you guys are a little on a short time frame. Do you guys watch YouTube outside of being on this podcast? Do you guys normally watch YouTube?
Yeah, here
and there. Sure. I always ask people before they get off the show, like what channels they like to watch, even if it has nothing to do with mountain biking. Like that Mark Roper guy, dude, is super fun to watch. Like nailing people on trying to like steal his like fake box of glitter, throwing shit around and fart spray. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
I think I've seen that before.
He's got like this box that like looks like it's an iPad box or something like that, and he leaves it on people's porches because these packages are getting stolen all the time. And then somebody steals it, and it's got like GPS in it and cameras, and like they take it home, and it's like spraying fart spray out and shooting glitter on them and shit. It's funny as hell. So if you haven't seen that, go ahead and definitely check it out. But I always ask people, like, so is there any channels that like you're into? What do you like watching?
I watch a lot of machinist channels. That's pretty much how I learned CNC machining, is just through like watching YouTube videos and stuff. And so, yeah, I don't know, I watch all kinds of different stuff, but I would say that one's like, I probably watch the most of. I would say it's educational YouTubing for sure.
Yeah. When I first started watching YouTube, the only thing I watched was like how to fix my water heater and cat videos. So I totally understand. How about you, Tim? You watch YouTube or not really?
Yeah, a bit. So, I mean, I was actually using it earlier today. I have for the same sort of thing, like fixing shit. So my truck has a leak. It's been raining here and my windshield's leaking. So it's like, knowing things like that. And then there's like, so I have two kids. My son Leo's 11, and he's always showing me something. Just like,
right on.
Look at this. Like, and it's usually somebody doing something really dumb.
Right.
So quick videos like that. So I get a lot of that stuff. And then I use when I'm feeling good. I really like to, I use it for yoga videos, as dorky as that sounds.
For the what?
Yoga and cycling work really well together, and so like getting up in the morning and picking a video that you can just relax to and do some yoga helps me out a lot.
Oh, right on, man.
Yeah.
Real quick before we go, because I feel like this is a great question too, is do you guys sell in Europe?
Yeah, we do. That would be
a slow yes.
Sort of stuff mostly, and it gets a bit tricky, and so distribution over there is something that we're looking into, but we're production wise, having a fun time just keeping up with what we can do here. We have
right, but if somebody reached out to you, like you guys would just work out the shipping with them if that's what they really wanted to do.
Exactly.
Or something like that. Got it.
Yeah, and it usually works out pretty well. Once again, we can make somebody a bike that's like unique and one of a kind. So
100%, man. Right on, man. Hey, honestly, Tim, Adam, I was really, really stoked that you guys were able to come on and chat with me about REEB. It was cool hearing about the company, and we got a little insight into what's coming up in the future here with the 190 millimeter pinion. And it was super fun chatting. It really was. And I appreciate that you guys took the time out of your day. I would imagine, it's Mother's Day. There's probably more important things to do than sit around and drink beer with some guy on the other side of the country. So thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate that. To all you guys that are listening, definitely go over, check out REEB Cycles. Their website's in the show more. check him out on Instagram. You can also go over to Jeff Lenosky's channel, Trail Boss, and he's always riding one and got lots of good things to say. We're gonna have Jeff on the show here sometime in the near future. I gotta figure that out, but it'll happen for sure. He's always fun to talk to. You guys have heard those episodes in the past. If you guys want to help me out, do me a favor. Seriously, hit the thumbs up if you've enjoyed this. If you haven't subscribed already, hit the subscribe button, because that makes me happy. And I don't want to pay for Prozac, so keep hitting the subscribe button, and you'll help me out there. Outside of that, it would be awesome if you're a podcast listener and you wrote a review. I always read the ones over on the Apple side because they're easy for me to get to. But if you write a review, I'm actually not even sure. I'm assuming this makes something in the algorithm be like, oh man, somebody else wrote a review. Hopefully it's a good one, man. So if you want to write a bad one, actually don't bother. It's not worth your time. So anyways, I just want to let you guys all know one thing. It only takes a bike to be a biker. Get out and be one.